marketing. 20% of our products produce 80% of profits. 20% time management. Where do I put my time? I bet for all of us, it's true that 20% of our tasks create 80% of your results. And customer service, 20% of complaints consume 80% of support. So if we can identify the 20% that's most meaningful, most impactful, and focus on that, then the 10x thinking was telling us, instead of improving everything a little bit, 2x thinking, such as a bigger boat, a faster boat, a double net, a better net, can we prioritize the few high leverage activities that already produce success, most of your success, and amplify them, or introduce a new high leverage activity that produces success? There's a lot on this slide, and I tried to make it not be so busy, but my computer wasn't cooperating. So if we stay on the left column, 2 times thinking, it's focusing on 80%, right? So we're trying to improve everything slightly. Our energy spread across all tasks, all clients, all products, and we're working in incremental gains, more effort, small results. So the equation here is more hours, more output. Like Leo, right? He stayed out longer and he had more output, yes, but at what cost? The 10x thinking, when we're focusing on the 20%, we are identifying and doubling down on a few things that drive most results. So we're focusing on the best clients. So for example, Leo, can he just go straight into an area of the, of the lake that has the best types of clients? Fish, sorry, clients, fish. Best offer, play in your zone of genius, bring innovation, technology. And we're talking about exponential gains, less effort and massive results. So the equation is more focus, more leverage, as opposed to just incremental, more time. I'd like to talk about a great example of this. Operation Warp Speed was the task force that made the COVID vaccines possible. So normally it takes a decade or more to develop and test a new drug, let alone a vaccine. Operation Warp Speed took 8 months. And herein lies the first lesson: aim high, 10x, right? So the goal was to deliver 300 million vaccines in 8 months. What they say from this experience is that having a fixed objective, a very clear objective, a very bold objective, helps sharpen prioritization. So as they said, first, set a clear target and a firm deadline. Aiming at that target enabled for everyone to focus on achieving a single result. So if we bring it back to tab language, what were the critical success factors, right, that they focused on? The CSFs. So Operation Warp Speed focused on development, manufacturing, and distribution all in parallel. So they couldn't do this sequentially. So everything started going at once, which is perhaps not ideal, but had to happen. They made multiple bets on vaccine technologies, as opposed to, again, doing it sequentially. They scaled up manufacturing and supply logistics in addition to vaccine development. So everything was happening at the same time. And they had to have massive coordination across federal agencies and private sector. And they could only do that because they had such a clear objective. So by the same token, they de-emphasized and set aside a bunch of things that could have come into play and normally do. So they only focused on vaccines. They didn't focus on other forms of treatment, which some people might have been wanting to focus on. They didn't really go for international and global coordination. They didn't participate in certain international efforts, which, again, is debatable, but they knew with such a restricted time frame that could not happen. And they obviously didn't do the level of research that normally is done because of that time condition. So the lesson here is, yes, things fell through the crack. They always have to. That's what prioritization does. And a bold 10x goal helps us see clearly what rises to the level of being a priority in each case. So by narrowing the mission to safe vaccine, rapid production and delivery by a target date, they were able to focus on the most impactful and necessary activities. So let's try this model now with Leo first, and then I would love to do it with each one of you. So let's talk about the wrong net. Well, first of all, what is his current challenge, right? I said his current challenge is that he wants to catch more fish. He really needs to grow his business substantially. So let's talk about the net that he's currently using that won't work for 10x. What are some of the current nets that he's relying on that won't work for 10x? Jason.
So right now, I mean, what's hindering him from 10x is right now it's just him. So he's solo, and
so one is that he's solo. So
yeah,
his net is solo. Yeah.
What about replacing the net with something totally different, like a trawl?
Right. So the net itself is not the right net, right, for him to be able to grow. So the net itself, the fact that he's solo, what else?
The location, it might also be 2x.
The location, where he's fishing, right? Are the biggest fish where he is? Good.
Yep.
Ralph.
He's got a small boat.
Maybe you should know.
Boat. Yes. Can the boat go to the better parts of the water, right?
Can it hold the fish he
now
catches?
let's go to say it again.
He can't store the fish he catches. It's too small.
Can't store the fish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he shouldn't be fishing. He should be doing something else, renting out boats.
Okay. So
if I may comment, it seems like all the suggestions we just heard now are 2x suggestions, not 10x.
Correct.
A better net, a better faster boat. So
right. So let's. Yeah. You're right, Danny. So we're segueing into number 2, right? So if he only aimed for 2x, what would he try? So we already said he might try a bigger net. That's 2x. He might try a different, location that potentially is 2x. He might try a bigger boat.
Another thing, I think very common would be to maybe work longer hours or to work faster. Throw that net faster into the water and just be more in a hurry trying to squeeze more in the time that you have.
Right. So changing the time that you're spending doing it is also something that he might try if it's 2x, right? Or working more efficiently, marginally so in this case.
Or skip his lunch break.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I can stay out longer, I skip my lunch break, I might get more fish. All right. So, but Danny, you were saying, okay, those are all 2x ideas, right? So if he aimed for 10x, what would he need to focus on? What would he redesign? What would he let go of? What are some of the 10x ideas that we could have for Leo?
Again, technology.
As I said,
sorry, Danny, you.
Go. Yes, Jan. What is that?
It was Donnie, I think, right?
Donnie. Sorry. Go ahead, Donnie.
Well, as what I said before, focus on management. Don't do the fishing yourself. Find out all the fishermen that can do the work for you. You make smaller margins, but much larger revenue.
Yes. So can you get 10 guys to go out there and you're just managing the enterprise all of a sudden? Is your job has changed, but you certainly change the output.
Yeah, and you develop an app that allows fishermen to join the organization, and then you have one distribution center that they all enjoy the facilities of the distributor that comes and picks up the fish from them instead of going to the market, and so on and so forth. So you build an organization and an app that controls it, and you bring in all the other services around it, and then you're running an empire.
Let's all go into fishing with the Danny app. I love that. Hannes, he got into technology. I'm curious, what are you thinking in terms of 10x for the fishermen?
The topics the point is, I'm not fully understanding in terms of the 10x concept. I'm not fully understanding the rules we play with. Because what Danny says is obviously the right. I mean, this is how it works, right? Just don't do it yourself. Let other do it. This is always the rule. But the fundamental fact is that this fisherman needs to convince either a bank if he's in the USA, but definitely not in Europe, and or an investor who gives him cash up to establish something like a distribution center. Or he finds some friends who gives it to him for a free time of 2 or 3 months, saying, "Hey, paying back. If you make good deals and have a good French environment, it's doable." So my question is, of course, if we talk about 10x, it's all about who's paying the bill. Who's paying the bill up front? Who brings you in a position that you don't do it yourself? This is what I did not understand so far.
Great question. Anybody want to? Yeah,
Ralph has his hand.
Well, and also, speaking from experience, building an organization is a tiresome task. So I would change technology and buy some dynamite, for example.
Some dynamite?
Dynamite.
You're brutal.
I
mean, on the technology side, it's less brutal, but maybe get sonar. He can maybe get a device that can tell him where the fish are. He could just take his boat straight to where the fish are swimming.
Jason, and now combine that with dynamite. Great.
Jason, again, we're talking 2x here. We're talking, incremental change. By the way, Hannes, you were asking, all the effort that he puts into the time, mainly the time and managerial thought, whatever that he puts into 2x, instead, keep doing what you're doing, but all that energy and time put now into developing the 10x. Like I said, developing an app today is relatively simple thing. You go online, you contact the LinkedIn fishermen's community on East Florida, whatever. So the extra time that you put into getting a few more kilos of trout, you can put into thinking large scale.
Yeah, and I do love Hannes's question, because that is the crux of the matter too, right? To go 10x there, and this emerges out of every single conversation that we have about 10x. There is an element of risk and fear, so it's almost like an indicator that you're on the right track. Absolutely, you have to make compromises and take certain risks. So things have to change, and that's exactly the point. We can't keep doing things the way that we are doing, and we can choose to grow 2x. The 10x thinking is, what do I have to change? And as we saw from the Operation Warp Speed, lots of things will have to move and be different and let go of. So Danny, I love your solution to be innovative, to not have to invest too much. But an investment opportunity is an investment opportunity, right? So if you figure out that by buying 10 boats, within 2 years they're going to recoup your investment, and you can start to raise money for that. That's part of the 10x journey too. So Ed.
So a different concept would be that maybe Leo designed and built that net himself, and it works really well. And he's the only one who has it. But then he realizes, hey, what if I built and sold these nets? What if I went into production and sold these nets to all the other fishermen because it's a great net? That could be a shift, taking something completely different from what he's doing that could blow up and turn into a big business for him.
Yeah, sell the shovel
Cool.
in the gold rush. Great.
It's all in this. If Leo has something, he has an advantage to somebody else. That's the key element he can play as his main card. Also, I mean, he can motivate the people just by telling a good story. Let them work for him. I know it by experience. I did it in the founding phase, in the very, very beginning. At 10, 15 people working for me just for the story.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely doable. You don't need the 100 millions. It only works several while, and it only works at a certain expectation level. But he could start off saying, "Hey, I get 3-4 youngers from the village, whatever. Give them something to work, and then you are just it's not necessarily. It doesn't necessarily need an investor, but a good story is a good to start with.
Yeah.
Just saying, if I might say that on that point, the sample, the example with RAP, the organization, the US organization. Maybe it's important that you add the information if they have unlimited budget or not, because time in an entrepreneurial concept, we either have time or we have money, or we are very patient. And if you have one of those factors on an unlimited scale, you can shoot a lot of money into a problem, and then you get it in a very, very short time. And if you're the government of the most powerful country in the world, it's very likely that you reach the target, So from the sample you want to raise, I understand the point, but it's a confusion aspect for me as very budget oriented in the moment. It's like, okay, the US government has, take $1 billion and you get all the people running for you. I mean,
yeah, no, so we can dive into that. And I almost brought the figure. They did have a budget. It was $18 billion. It's a lot. But they had the time constraint, as you said. But who didn't have a budget were all the people they were collaborating with from the private sector, and that still got done. So I think the whole idea here is like, how can we not look past the constraints, because the constraints will always exist. My favorite example of that, and I know we only have 8 minutes left, so I'll be brief, is how Apple, arguably, all the money in the world, had to get rid of their self-driving car program, which they had been investing, billions of dollars over 5 years, because we all have constraints. We all have to make these difficult decisions to what to prioritize. And yes, we don't have to be perfect, but the invitation, and here we have 7 minutes. I'd love if anybody's thinking about their own business that I would love to pick your brain and thinking, what is your current challenge? And what is the current net that is more 2x? And let's think, can we collectively here help you think 10x for 2026? So do I have a volunteer that wants to jump in?
I'm happy to be a volunteer.
All right.
Thank you, Jan. Great. Yeah. So what is your current challenge?
Well, you mean the bottleneck in what we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
I still, it's getting these companies, the big companies, to really feel the confidence of taking that big step to let their production be relied on or be monitored in an automated digital way. We've always done it this way. We have a laboratory, we do the sampling, and how can we, or it takes so much time to convince them to go that big step forward.
Mm-hmm.
That's really my biggest challenge. The technology is strong enough. We have use cases, but there's still a lot of resistance in many organizations.
So the net that you've been using for currently, are you sharing use cases? How are you trying to increase that confidence and break through that barrier?
Yeah, so we give a lot of seminar talks. We show samples, usually without being able to mention the names of the use cases, the companies involved, but trying to give them that piece of confidence, and also to make them feel that the competition is moving. So create this internal dynamics within a very low margin industry very often. These are mass-produced products.
Mm-hmm. Right. So if you were aiming for a 10x, what would you try? or 2x, I'm sorry, first 2x. So more, seminar talks, show samples.
Right. So yeah, I think, trying to have even more exposure there, or let's say have a few more salespeople, which we, would like to do. But if we keep going at the same strategy, it would probably be a 2x rather than a 10x.
Right. Yes. So here's where we can leverage the group for some brainstorming. If Jan aimed for 10x, what would you need to focus on, redesign, rethink, let go of? Jan, do you have any thoughts, or do you want to hear from the group first?
Well, I think, if one discussion I had last summer was saying, don't talk small numbers, because if you approach a strategic management thinker, and again you go for relatively small safe numbers, you become more of a disturbance. You have to present something that for the companies is real shifting the territory. So it's a bit like saying to the companies, this is your 10x plan, which I can implement, or I can help you implement, but you need to make 30 million euros available for this. You cannot just invest 500,000 or 1 million. That will take you not to that point of 10x. So selling a 10x plan to our potential big customers, and for many of them, I was talking to a company in China at the trade show. They have 700 extruders running every day. These are huge volumes of product that go through there. They have no inline measurements of our kind.
Yeah, I love that, because it's tackling the resistance that Hannes was getting at, right? So you're talking about that leap, exactly, which is scary. I'm going to put 30 million into this, but I get 10x. And how can I do that? So any other ideas for Jan? I do love the 10x, that you have to sell the 10x thinking.
I got one. It's not as big thinking as Jan's, but my idea, Jan, is to hire a psychologist or hire a change management expert into your team and make them part of the sales process, because they're going to unlock the people who are resisting.
Yeah, but the personal the change management is definitely a part of this, and the human resistance. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, good one, Jason. Who else has a 10x thinking differently? What to focus on for Jan?
I would throw in along the same lines of that. I would get a financial forensics expert to come in to build the business case to get convince the client of the 10x improvement. In other words, really show them the payback in gory detail, and if they didn't do it, what might be their fate down the road. And if there was somebody that came in and could just, with a little bit of digging in on some forensics at the client end, could come back with a no-brainer business case that they have to spend the 30 million, kind of thing. Because I think Jan hit it on the head. It's a question of now, what are the right tools to free that client up so they can see it.
Great. Awesome. We do have 1 minute left. Anybody has final words for Jan?
I just wanted to ask Jan, are there any regulatory or from standardization aspect forces to inspect that certain point you can do? Maybe you have some good politics connection. I mean, in the moment, I'm serious. In the moment, you can shoot all a bunch of trash into the EU. They will make a law out of it, even if you just want to poo. You maybe have to make some regulatory stuff. Just maybe just one line into the EU formalization, whatever. If you know some people there, maybe they can just bring it into the whatever governmental whatever structure, and then ultimately you end up like, hey, look, you want to have this inspected.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome. All right, guys. that's it. I think we don't, 10x thinking is what's possible that we can focus on to move the needle. But the main point is do things different than we've done so far. And I think for Jan, we've been doing the case studies. We've been doing what is the new information or the new thing that's going to shock them and get them out of their current level of thinking, right? Something bigger, bolder, more impactful. And that's the invitation for all of us. We are all under constraints, but what's that one thing that if we put it in our plan will get us thinking different than incrementally, will really create some impact. And we may not be ready for it now, but that's